Imagine showing up to your own father's funeral with your heart completely shattered, only to find the church doors literally locked in your face, and the woman standing on the other side, your wicked stepmother, smirking in designer black, telling you you're not allowed inside because you don't share his DNA. Yeah, that actually happened to me. But what my stepmom didn't realize, while she was playing bouncer at a funeral, it was that my dad and I had been keeping a massive secret from her for months, a secret legally binding on paper. And let me tell you, the look on her face when the lawyer finally pulled that paper out, I wouldn't trade that memory for $1,000,000. If you've ever dealt with a toxic family member who thinks blood is the only thing that makes a family, you're going to want to hear this. Let's back up a little bit. I was adopted when I was 6 months old. My dad was my entire world. And he was a single guy who wanted a kid more than anything, and from the second he held me, I was his daughter. We had the kind of bond you only see in movies. You know those dads who show up to every single awful, out-of-tune middle school band concert with a giant bouquet of flowers? That was him. He owned a very successful construction business, but he never let his wealth get in the way of being a present dad. Fast forward to about 6 years ago. My dad was in his late 60s, retired and lonely. Enter Linda. Linda was a decade younger, flashy, and honestly, a walking red flag. I'm talking about the kind of woman who complains to the waiter that her water is too wet. You know the type. But Dad was blinded by the companionship, and they got married within 8 months. From day one, Linda made it her personal mission to remind me of my place. Whenever we had family dinners, she'd make these passive-aggressive little jabs. She'd say things like, "Oh, hey, it's just such a shame your dad never had biological children to pass his empire to." Or, "I wonder where you get your nose from. Definitely not from our side of the family." I brushed it off. I'm a grown woman. I have a husband, and we actually adopted 2 beautiful little boys ourselves. I wasn't going to let a real-life Disney villain ruin my peace. But then, my dad got sick. Pancreatic cancer. And it was fast. Suddenly, Linda's little jabs turned into full-blown psychological warfare. Because with Dad declining, she saw dollar signs. And she saw me as the only thing standing between her and a massive inheritance. But like I said, my dad was a lot smarter than she gave him credit for. And the trap he set for her? Oh, it was brilliant. But to get to the payoff, we have to walk through the absolute nightmare she put me through first. When Dad's condition worsened, he moved into at-home hospice care. That's when Linda officially became the gatekeeper. She took his phone, she screened his calls. If I wanted to visit my own father, I had to schedule it with her, like I was trying to get a table at a Michelin star restaurant. It was agonizing. I mean, think about it. Your hero is fading away, and you have to beg a woman who hates you for 10 minutes of his time. It's the kind of helpless frustration that makes you want to scream into a pillow until your lungs give out. Oh, but here is a little tangent and a piece of advice. Never underestimate a dying man who has spent his whole life building an empire. Dad wasn't weak. He was just tired. One afternoon, Linda went to the salon because, of course, a dying husband is no excuse to miss a blowout. And I sneaked into the house. Dad was awake, and he wasn't alone. His longtime lawyer, Mr. Davis, was sitting right there next to the bed with a stack of papers. Dad held my hand and looked me dead in the eye and said, "Sarah, Linda thinks she's playing me. Let her keep thinking she's winning. Whatever happens after I'm gone, do not react. Just call Mr. Davis." I didn't fully understand what he meant. I was just crying, holding his hand, terrified of losing him. I promised him I'd play along. I thought the worst part was going to be the day his heart stopped. I had no idea the real cruelty hadn't even started yet. My dad passed away 2 weeks later. The pain was like a physical weight on my chest. Linda took completely over the funeral arrangements. She didn't ask for my input on the casket, the flowers, or the music. Honestly, I didn't care. I just wanted to say goodbye. The morning of the funeral, my husband, our 2 adopted boys, and I drove to the church. It was pouring rain. Classic dramatic movie weather, right? We walked up the stone steps, and I reached for the heavy wooden door. It didn't open. I pulled again. And nothing. Suddenly, a guy in a cheap black suit steps out from under the awning. He's holding a clipboard, like a literal bouncer at a nightclub. Name? He asks. Sarah, I said, completely confused. I'm his daughter. The guy looks at his list, shakes his head. Sorry, you're not on the list. Private event. My blood ran cold. My husband stepped forward, ready to cause a scene. But before he could say a word, the church doors creaked open. Out steps Linda. She is wearing a ridiculous black veil and a dress that probably cost more than my car. She looked at me, standing in the freezing rain with my crying kids, and she smiled. A cold, a dead, victorious smile. What is going on, Linda? I demanded, my voice shaking. Let us in. She crossed her arms. This is a family-only service, Sarah. Biological family, blood relatives, and his actual friends. I was stunned. I am his family. I'm his daughter. Linda leaned in close, so only I could hear her over the rain. You're not his real daughter. You're a charity case he picked up because he was lonely, and looking at your own fake kids. You're not even a real mom either. You have no bloodline. You are nothing to this family. Go home. She called my children fake. She told me I wasn't a real mom. My husband was about to rip the doors off the hinges. But then I remembered what my dad said. Let her think she's winning. Do not react. I took a deep breath, looked at Linda, and said, Okay, Linda, have a beautiful service. I turned around, grabbed my husband's hand, and we walked away. And she thought she had completely destroyed me. She thought she was the undisputed queen of the castle. But she forgot one tiny, little detail. For the next 4 days, Linda lived it up. She posted on Facebook from my dad's house, tagging herself as a grieving widow while wearing his Rolex. She was already listing his vintage cars for sale online. Then, Friday rolled around. The reading of the will. Mr. Davis, the lawyer, called us into his office, and Linda walked in looking like she just won the lottery. She sat at the head of the conference table, sipping sparkling water, refusing to even look at me. Mr. Davis cleared his throat. He opened the folder. He started with the standard legal jargon. And then he read a personal letter Dad had attached to the front of the will. To my wife, Linda, I leave the sum of $50,000 as agreed upon in our prenuptial agreement, an agreement you clearly didn't read carefully enough. And I also leave you 30 days to vacate my property. Linda dropped her sparkling water. It literally spilled all over her lap. What? She screeched. That's illegal. I'm his wife. I get the house. I get the business. Mr. Davis didn't even blink. He kept reading. To my one and only daughter, Sarah, the girl who chose me to be her father, and the greatest joy of my life, I leave you my estate, the business, the accounts, and everything else in my name. You are my real blood, because blood is built through love, not biology. P.S. Kiss my grandkids for me, guys. When I tell you Linda lost her mind, she lost her mind. She stood up, screaming that she was going to sue, that I manipulated him, that she was the victim. She demanded to see the papers. Mr. Davis calmly slid the documents across the table. Dad hadn't just left everything to me, and he had transferred the deeds to the house and the business into a living trust with my name on it before he even died. Linda had absolutely zero legal grounds to contest it. She was broke, locked into an ironclad prenup she had signed years ago, assuming she could just manipulate him later. And she was about to be homeless. I stood up, looked at her soaking wet designer pants, and smiled. You know, Linda, I said, keeping my voice super sweet. Since this is family business now, show you're not really needed here. Go home. We didn't even give her the full 30 days because the house was legally mine. I showed up 3 days later with a moving crew. I watched as she furiously packed her tacky clothes into suitcases, crying real tears this time. She tried to take some of the antique silverware, but my lawyer literally had an inventory list and made her put it back. It was glorious. Today, my husband and I live in that house. My two beautiful, adopted boys play in the exact same backyard where my dad used to push me on the tire swing. Look, the reality is, toxic people will always try to use whatever they can to make you feel small. Linda thought biology was her trump card. She thought she could weaponize my adoption against me. But family isn't about who gave you their DNA. It's about who shows up. It's about who holds your hand in the dark. My dad chose me. I chose my kids. And no bitter, greedy stepmother could ever take that away. If you have a chosen family that you love more than anything, drop a heart in the comments below. Have you ever had to deal with an entitled step-parent who thought they ran the show? Let me know your story down there. I read every single one. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more crazy revenge stories. And remember, karma might take her time, but she always delivers. Catch you in the next one.